Hello, everyone. For this webinar, we are going to be going over interacting with dispatch through mobile CAD. If you were on the live webinar for this, Will Vaughn hosted that webinar, but we did have some technical difficulties with the recording. So I'm going to go through and run through all the same information that he went through, and then we're going to pass it back to him for the Q&A session that occurred during the webinar. For today, we're going to be going over how an officer can interact with a dispatcher when a dispatcher gives them a call or puts them on a call, and how the officer can add names to that call, mark themselves as en route arrived, and see different things through mobile CAD. All right, so you can see right here, we've got the mobile CAD, ARMS Mobile open to the home page right here. To get to mobile CAD, you can come over to the sidebar right here and go to calls. That'll bring them to the open calls. Or you can go to CAD right here, and that'll bring you to the main CAD section. You can see right here we've got where we can log ourselves on or log me off. And log me off is grayed out because currently this officer is logged off, or this unit is logged off. So you can go here to do log me in, or we can go to the open calls list right here. And once we open that, you'll see it opens straight up to my open calls right here. And in there, there's no calls because I'm not logged in right now. And so there's no open calls for me. If I go to all open calls, that'll show me all the calls that are in the system currently right now. So if we come over to my open calls and come up to my name right here, I can also go down to log me in, and that'll bring me to the log me in part as well. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'll click on log me in. That'll bring me to this screen. It'll show my CAD unit, and I'm the officer associated with it. I can choose my shift. I can put in a site, beat. I can even choose a location right here. And let's say I want to log in at the department. And then I can come to vehicle. I don't have any vehicles in my system to log on with myself right now, but you could log on a vehicle and put in that starting mileage for your vehicle right there as well. All right, and then I'll just hit save, and that'll log me in. And you can see now the log me off button is not grayed out, but the log me in is. So now I can only log myself off because I'm already logged in. All right, we'll go back to the open calls list. And again, no open calls because it opens up straight to my open calls, and I don't have any in the system right now. So now I can go down to CAD and give myself a call as a dispatcher. So as a dispatcher, I'm in CAD, and then I'm going to come up here to add, so I can add myself a new call. We'll put in an aggravated assault, and we'll do it at Parkwood Hall. And we'll add in some other information. So we'll put in a reporting party. All right. And then we'll save that. And we will put my officer on that call. So now my officer is dispatched. And you'll also notice there is a green flag right here. That means that that officer is currently logged into ARMS Mobile and looking at CAD, looking at that open calls list. So that is where I'm at right now. I'm already looking at it, so it shows a green flag to show the dispatcher that they are looking at that call. All right, and we'll come back to my ARMS Mobile, and you'll see right here that it opens up to my open call. So you can see now that I am logged on and dispatched to a specific call. And this is the call that I'm looking at right now. I can come in here and just going from the top to the bottom, I can look at the common name right here. This will show me all the information about that common name. So the information on there, any call history involved, anything to do with the security system or any contact information for that security system, any Clery data or hazmat data and hazmat warning, any officer safety warning, any contact information for that location, any photos like blueprints, and other media. So if you have blueprints in a PDF, you can put that in the other media right there. All right, and that's something actually the can see in CAD as well. So if we went to that common name section right here in Dispatch, they can see all that same information. Okay. All right, and we will come back to the open calls list. And now I can go in and I can click edit, so I can go in and edit the call. I would have to have permissions to edit anything in this call. The issue report button will come later. I can add notes. So this is officer notes. And once I post that in there, it'll show up. You can also see the location info showed up as well. So any hazmat or officer safety or contact information will show up in the notes there too. And if the note section gets to be too big, I can click on read notes to view all of those in order. So I added that note. If we come back over to the dispatch side, you'll see that the notes pop up in there as well. You can also go in there and view it and see who added it and when it was last modified. Now, if I was a dispatcher and I added notes, once those are added in here, I can go back to the other side and I can see that the dispatch notes show up for the officer as well. So they'll be able to see both sides of that. All right, and then going down, also with the reporting party info, you can click on that and that'll show any other calls that this person has been on in the system. So this is another call that that person has been on. And then below that, you can see I'm dispatched to the call. I can also mark myself as en route and even come down here at the bottom and see that now the dispatcher sees that I'm en route. And the dispatcher will know that the officer can do that because of that green flag right there. They'll know that they can mark themselves as en route, arrived, and clear the call. So one other thing while I'm still in here, this is considered the details portion of it. So this is the details view is what we call it. You can also come up here and you can click on map view. And once you do that, it'll bring you to this map over here and show you right here is our incident, our aggravated assault. And you can see behind that is the officer safety alert for large dogs in the area. And over here is actually the other call that we have open. So if we come to the number right here and click on show open calls, this will automatically show my open call, and I can go in and edit it or click on the location, or I can click all open calls right here and see the other calls. So this one over here is just an alarm, and I can see that on my map as well. You can also go through and sort these if you'd like to as well. All right, and then if I come up to the top and click on details view, that'll bring me back over here into our details view, where then I can, modify a lot of different things on here. I can set it as arrived, which the dispatch side will see as well. They'll now see that it's arrived. And I can come in here and add names, unknown suspects, vehicles, properties, as long as I have permission to do that. I can come in here and add a brand new name, or right here I can search for a name. So if I want to search for Mary Markison, and then hit search after typing in that name. Let me change the way I spell that. You'll see she'll pop up right there, and I can click on that. And now I would choose her involvement type on this call. So I'm going to say that she is the victim, and she's a student. I can add other information to her right here as well, but that's all the information I want to add right now. So I'll save that. And you can see that name is now associated with that call. And you'll also see if we go back to dispatch side, there's a name section up here where it's lit up because Mary Markison has been added to the event. All right, and we'll come back over here. The last thing an officer would want to do is actually click issue report. So they can do that either before they clear the call. They can hit issue report right here and hit save. That'll issue themselves a report for this call. Or we can hit cleared and clear that call, put in a disposition. I'll put citation issued. And then you can see over here, we've got a tab for last 12 hours, we can click on that, and that'll bring us to the last calls that have been put in the system. You can see a couple test calls that I've already got in here, but we can come to this one, and we can still hit issue report after we clear the call. We'll hit save, and that'll create a new case number for this officer. All right, other than that, we can come over to all open calls here, and we've already got a call in the system, and you can see I can't modify this call because it's got a different unit on it. I'm unit 123, this is unit 293. I can't do anything to this call because I am not a part of it. But if I come up here to add me to this call, I can click on that. That'll add me as an officer on that call so I can be put on there. And you can also see an alert at the bottom pop up that says, I have a new call received, which is this one. Now I can go in, set myself as arrived. This won't change anything for the 293. And you can see also it put me in my open calls. If I go back to all open calls, now it shows us both on that same call. So I can come back, set myself as arrived, and set myself as cleared. And now all that's left is that other person still on the call. If the dispatch side comes in and clears that call, and another use for that add me to this call button is if a dispatcher puts out just an on hold call. So let's say there is an accident and they want whoever is closest to go take care of that. We'll save that call, and now you can see this is on hold. And as an officer, I can see I don't have any open calls, but I do have this call in the open calls list that's just on hold. No one's taken it. So then I can add myself to this call, go help whoever it is out with that accident and take care of everything, and then clear that call. All right. So that is it. That is all that we needed to cover, and we can close out these two as well if they pop up over on the side. That's all that we wanted to cover for an officer interacting with dispatch. And actually, sorry, one more thing. Once the officer is done with everything that they're putting in, they can come up here at the top and click on Log Me Off. That'll bring them over here. They would be able to put in their ending mileage for their vehicle if they had one, and then hit save. Now they are all done for the day, and we are all done for the webinar. So I'll go ahead and pass this back over to Will for the Q&A session. All right, thanks everybody.
So do we have any questions, guys?
And just to go over it again, for any questions that you may have, you should be able to move your mouse on the screen and go down to participants down at the bottom. And that'll pop up a sidebar over on the side. And then at the bottom of that sidebar, you should see where you can click raise hand to ask a question. We do have a question through the chat. Miguel asked, what are the permissions that officers will need to be able to add properties, vehicles, etc. to that call? And Jason, you may be able to help me out with this one. I know that in the user access, and we'll go ahead and go to setup and then user access whenever that pops up. And just click on one of those test ones. All right, and scroll down, go to mobile report writer. There's a couple different places where officers will need to be able to add a vehicle or a master name to it. One of them is here in mobile report writer. So you can see right there, you've got master name, vehicle, and property. Those are all going to be where they would need to be able to add or modify. And then go down to CAD. And there's nothing you would really need to worry about for this section unless you wanted them to be able to add a CAD report, and then go down to case management. And this would be another place that you would need to go if you want to add property, add vehicles, add involved parties or anything like that. Jason, can you think of any other places for adding a name like that?
The big thing to think about when you're talking about user access when it comes to adding in things like master name and property and vehicles and so on, is when you're adding a name, you have to kind of think a couple steps ahead, because when you add in a master name, let's say it's a brand new one, it's a person you've never interacted with before. That means in the master name section, so 3 more down from where Will is right now, you would have to give them the ability to add names. Even though you're adding it to a CAD event, you'd have to have the ability to add names to be able to add a new name to a CAD event. And then the same thing with the modify right next to it. If you're adding an existing person to a CAD event, you have to have the ability to modify that name, because you are modifying that name. You're adding contact history to that person. So these are kind of things that I see a lot of times that people forget about when they're kind of playing with their user access. Is not only do you have to have the ability to add names in the CAD sections that Devin was just talking about, or case management, or whatever module you're talking about at the time, but you also have to have those permissions on the actual master name module as well, and vice versa. I've got some customers that will do just master name and then never hit the other items either.
Yeah, and kind of for Miguel also, and you messaged about this in the chat too, that for CAD, so that CAD portion, the mobile CAD, whenever you're adding in names, there I do believe you have to have modify, or the ability to modify a CAD event to be able to add that name. All right, and we've got a couple other questions in here I see popping up. And for Kyle at University of Oklahoma, he said, when an officer clears himself from a call, does it require him to choose a disposition? I don't think it requires it. I think it does pop up. They could close out of that and it wouldn't add a disposition, but it pops it up so that they can add it, since they generally will add a disposition there.
Yeah, if a call is closed out completely without a disposition, and this doesn't matter if it's from mobile CAD or from the thick client, if it's closed out without a disposition, that means the user did not put in one. Because like Devin said, in both situations, when you clear the last officer from that call, it's going to immediately pop with the disposition screen to have the user put in a dispo. So if it is blank, then that's going to be your user exited out, or chose not to put in one.
All right. And then I see that Eric at the University of Oklahoma asked, can I change default screen to map view / all open calls? I don't think so currently. Right now, it's always going to default to just that details view and my open calls, mainly because that's where we see most officers going straight to. They want to see whatever call they're assigned to and be able to add stuff to it right away through the details view. But definitely something we can look at, being able to change the default screen on there. And then another question that we have in there, Will, can you go back to the CAD screen, the mobile CAD, and go to the map view? Miguel asked on the mapping, can you select satellite view? I don't believe so, but I just wanted to go in there and check. Yeah, I think it's just going to default to that main Google map view. And that's just based off the Google API. All right. And then let's see, the last question that we have in chat. Can we put a link on the open call list on the map view to open the incident call with all notes, etc.? So one thing on here with the map view, Will, if you click up on your name at the very top and then click on show open calls. So there's no open calls right now in there, but here, if there was an open call, you would be able to see those open calls with the information to them. And it wouldn't have a link to the notes specifically, but you would be able to click on them to be able to view the information or view it in details view, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, that is all the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any other questions, whether you can raise your hand or type it up in the chat right there?
And one thing while y'all are drumming up some good questions for us that I think would probably be worth mentioning. Whenever you add an officer to a call, let's say a dispatcher added Will to a call, depends a little bit on what browser you're using, but if you're using Chrome or anything like that, you'll have a little pop-up appear in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Some users, and this is just kind of a generic support thing we get a lot, some users will report that they don't get that pop-up. One thing to always pay attention with that is that Chrome has its own settings for that. So Will, if you would click the I next to your not secure up there at the top by your URL, and you go to site settings, there is a notifications item in this list right here. And you can state whether or not you want it to allow it for this site, block it for this site, and then they also have the ask option there too. And obviously, you depend on your permissions on that machine, whether or not you have access to it. But yeah, that's just something to think about. Another item that I see in that same vein is if the notifications are allowed here, but they're still not popping up, Windows 10 has that kind of annoying feature where it has the notifications that appear on your start bar in the lower right-hand corner. If your users collapse the notification into there, Windows 10 just remembers it and will always pop it into that queue in the little notification that appears next to your time. Just something to think about. If you're ever missing your alerts in the corner, one, I would check this to make sure it's allowed on your website, and then two, I would check your notifications in Windows 10 and make sure the user or you, whoever it is, hasn't just chosen to send it to there where they're popping, but you just can't see them on the screen.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Tony Baldridge just asked, if an officer enters any information on the CAD screen and the police information, will it show that he did it versus the dispatcher?
Yes. Everything you do is tagged. Now, you can't see it from the mobile side. We don't show the last modified and the modification history there yet. But if you pop open CAD for me, Will, and just open up one of those notes, it doesn't matter which one. Every note in here will track who it was added by and who it was last modified by. So you can always go back and check who added a note, who modified that note. In a lot of situations, to avoid any sort of confusion, a lot of our customers will just give all of their users the ability to add notes and not modify. Therefore, if you put in a note and there's something amiss with it or something changes, then you put in a new note with the correction in it. Different work processes for different departments. If you want to give your users the ability to add and modify, perfectly fine. It just depends on how your department kind of wants to run that sort of business process. Looks like we have a question from Natasha too, unless I'm missing another one here.
All right.
Hi guys, sorry I did come on late, so I might have missed this in the presentation, but is there any, or is it in development for public information to show in ARMS mobile? Because right now it just has notes.
I can take that one. Right now, it's just showing notes in there for it to be able to be tracked by the officer or be able to be tracked by ARMS so that we can see who puts in the notes versus the officer and the dispatcher. Currently, we don't have public information posting in the mobile because of that. There's no way just to track who put what kind of information. Right now, it's kind of known that the dispatcher working on it puts in that public information. But
no,
now,
that makes sense. I'm just curious if it's possible to be able to view public info from mobile, because for our agency, we use public information as where we put the storyline, basically.
Mm-hmm. So for that, it's not in mobile right now. It does pass over to the actual case whenever that case gets issued, but that's not a bad idea, and that's something that we can definitely look at doing, putting that public information into the mobile side.
Hey, Will you open up MobileCAD for me again?
Mm-hmm.
You could print, and this is not really a fix that I'm trying to float towards you, but just as far as a Band-Aid for what you're talking about there, Natasha, you should be able to print your CAD event from here, and it should just be the full printed log. So if you did want to read the public information from there, you could do that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. The entire storyline goes into public information, and just confidential information we put in notes field, like date of births, names, socials, vehicle info, and such. That's how we use the system.
Okay, and all that public information is put in before the call, during, and after?
All of the above, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Not seeing any other questions, so Will, you can go. I'll pass it back over to you, and we can go ahead and wrap this call up.
Okay. Well, thank you all for attending our webinar. We hope to see you very soon at the next one. Please, if you ever have any further questions, just go ahead and feel free to email us at support@arms.com, and we'll be happy to help you guys. Yeah, y'all have a wonderful rest of the week.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time, everybody.